Very excited to be in conversation with Neetu Samarjah today. What is branding, communication, and reputation for a dummy?
So branding helps you differentiate
From
yourself
one another.
from anybody else.
How do we combat social awkwardness?
16 years of age, you come to Mumbai and suddenly you're
Yeah.
laughed at, right? Now you found people.
Mm.
But for you to be able to hold conversations,
Yeah.
you need to have knowledge or you need to have some substance. Right?
Can reputation ever be regained?
Fortunately or unfortunately for companies, people's memory is short. Every day when you're getting ready and looking at yourself in the mirror, straight into your eye, can you look at and say that it was a clean day? While they say that leadership is gender agnostic, but still it is nuanced. We
Yeah.
want to be the superwoman. We have to simply drop the superwoman syndrome. In this whole world, there is nothing called work-life balance. The balance has to be within.
So finally, 3 personal branding tips from you.
People ask me this question, how do I build my presence in the organization, that the organization sees me and I get good growth? And my strong advice to them is that
Very excited to be in conversation with Neetu Samarjah today, who wears many, many hats, from being a CEO to being an independent director on many boards, being a leadership coach and a mentor who takes on diversity with a penchant and passion. So firstly, thank you. Thank you so much for being here, taking the time out to converse with us, and welcome to the We Women Project.
thank you, Vilasini. It's an absolute pleasure. And I'm quite excited to share whatever little knowledge or experience that I have gathered in this space. While they say that leadership or any such role is gender agnostic, but still it is nuanced. And
I'd
we
love to
need
hear about that. I'd love
keep
to
that
hear
in
about
mind.
that. So now, I'm going to move into the personal branding
Sure.
space. One is, how do we combat social awkwardness? I think many of us, even I carry a social awkwardness, I feel many times. So how does one overcome social awkwardness?
I also can. All of us do, I guess, depending on which social gathering we are in. So it's a part and parcel of it. But how I overcame it. Number one, I feel that if I'm going to a social gathering, I'm giving my time. So when we go to some social gatherings, be very mindful of your choices. If you're choosing to be a part of all social gatherings and struggling with awkwardness, then it will be a pressure. But if you choose that my time is the investment that I'm making, so that investment, then you know that the pool is small and I will make it wisely.
Yes.
So hence the number of gatherings you need to be present in reduces.
Diminishes. And then you choose that you want to be part of it. So
Correct.
it comes from a want.
Want, absolutely, rather a need. And because you want to participate in it, why? So then there is a need that you will answer. And if that why is big enough, then you better overcome it. Right?
Yeah.
And so that's the equation
That
I follow.
Works.
Yeah.
Makes
So
sense.
instead of being present in 10 gatherings and then feeling awkward, be present in 3 and ace them.
Yeah. Coming to ace them, right? So what makes you ace them in that? Is it conversation is that the primary in...
So it's very, very important that how are you able to carry a certain conversation. One of the quick fixes that I use is I try to understand the gathering itself, the profile of people who are going to be there, read up about them, do some basic research, identify 4-5 people whom you think if I find them there, this is the kind of conversation I can have with them. So all that, and internet has made it very easy to find information about people. Doing some bit of research based on that is essential. Secondly, now you found people, but For you to be able to hold conversations,
Yeah.
you need to have knowledge, or you need to have some substance,
Yeah,
right? Otherwise,
yeah.
what will you converse?
Yeah.
For which reading or listening nowadays, because so many podcasts and or videocasts, etc., are available. So reading and listening, depending on what is your skill set, is again a non-negotiable. If you really want to build a brand for yourself, you have to be well read or well listened, kind of thing.
You make some really important points. So every conversation, Meetu, big or small, we need to have a pre-preparation.
Yes. Like they say, luck is when opportunity meets preparation.
Right.
So without
Right.
preparation, you
Right.
know,
Right.
nothing, you won't gain anything. So hard work and preparation are non-negotiable.
Understood. How would you define power dressing?
Again, another non-negotiable. And when I say power dressing, it doesn't have to be that you have to be suited or you have to wear like a very elaborate sari or anything that's very difficult. Right? Power dressing has to be something that gives you power. Right? It gives you energy. It gives you confidence. So that's power dressing in my definition. And how do you tell yourself that today I am looking ready for the occasion, or I am power dressed? Filter of 3 A's. Is it appropriate for the occasion? Are you looking attractive in it? And is it making you feel authentic?
Okay.
Right? If these 3 filters it carries, I think people are very open to, accept you in the dressing that you're comfortable in. But you have to be comfortable and confident
in what you're wearing.
Yeah.
Yeah. How do you measure appropriateness? Because, many times we're overdressed in certain occasions, underdressed in some places. So how is appropriateness defined?
So when in doubt, keep it simple. So like a beautiful sari like this, Vilasini, it is appropriate for all occasions, right? You can do a boardroom level meeting in this, and you can do a simple, your team interview in this, or you can even go to a B school and take a good guest lecture in it, right? It's such a beautiful outfit that will suit all the occasions, right? So, and it is more than anything else, like I said,
I am comfortable in it and keep it simple.
Yes, authenticity is the most important aspect. That are you feeling authentic about it? Now, if you are, say for example, going for a boardroom discussion, but you're wearing a heavy kanjivaram with all the jari borders in it, so what? You liking it? You feeling it makes you feel you?
Go ahead. Okay. Right.
But it should energize you.
So everything comes down to us.
Always.
Okay.
Yes.
That's the world doesn't matter. No, it's brilliant. It's brilliant.
In my head.
Because, because then once you are comfortable, and once it's you just carry it through.
Yeah. In fact, Vilasini, on this, just an extension, I feel we are our biggest champions. Nobody can champion our cause better than we ourselves do, and we should not shy away from it. And nobody is a bigger critic of ourselves than us, right?
Yeah.
So that voice need not be, we should not shut that voice. We should listen to criticism of our own, but don't make it like a pressure, because we put a lot of self-inflicted pressure by talking to us in our own head so much and keep creating self-doubt. We have to be very careful of that as well, because when I say that you are enough, and a lot of people then come back to me and say that, but I have this doubt, I have that doubt. So what? Life is full of doubts, right? But live with those.
It's all for us. I mean, I love that.
Yes.
And I love what you say. So, Meetu, in this, the next part after dressing is that, how do you make genuine relationships? Okay, there's awkwardness, then we move to conversation, then, we carry ourselves in a particular way, we dress in ourselves a particular way. And then from that moment, how does a social interaction move into, warm relationships? Because that's what's going to take us forward ahead. So, I'd
Yeah.
love to hear from you on that.
Right? So you reap what you sow. So to have genuine relationships, be genuine. Simple as that. Right? So if we are genuine, we are investing our time consciously in a certain relationship. It will nurture itself and take a certain shape. And also in that equation, be the giver. Because if you're always taking something from you, people will stop taking calls, right? Why will you may want to invest your time, but I may not want to receive that time, right?
Absolutely.
So because if you're a taker all the time, then that won't work. So I have to be a giver as well if I need a genuine relationship from you.
Very valid and very nicely put. The other one is, they talk a lot about sponsors.
Yes.
Sponsors who would talk on your behalf when you're not
Yes.
in the room.
Correct.
So, can we talk about that as a concept, and how do sponsors get built? How do...
So, especially in corporate career and otherwise also when you're a promoter or a founder, sponsors definitely play a role. Your reputation, it's an outcome of the experience that you're leaving behind, and then the feedback or the messages that people have about you makes a difference. So having a champion in the organization or in the ecosystem is essential. Now, how do you build one? First and foremost, you have to be your own champion. So like they say, my apni favorite too, you have to be your own favorite. First and foremost. So first you have to believe in yourself. So that's first step. Then identifying champions, and within organization, it could be your own boss, it could be maybe the HR team, it could be super boss, it could be a peer, could be anybody. But that person also has to be of a certain stature, a meaningful stature, right? Then only there's an influence.
Yeah.
You need to know the people who matter, and you need to remember that they are very busy. Everybody. Whether he is or she is your boss, or they are your subordinates, or they are your peers, or some other department, everybody is busy. They are busy struggling for themselves, first and foremost, where they'll have time to notice the great work that you're doing. Right? So it's very important that you consciously convey some of the great work that you're doing time to time to the right people. Of course, you don't have to seem desperate telling people that balance you have to create. But somewhere subtly, we need to keep conveying to the world some of the key projects that we are working on, some of the key impact that we've made on the organization or on the team, or some initiative that we have proactively taken, all that. And before doing all of this, we have to remember that you cannot position anything that doesn't exist.
Right.
So you have to do great work first.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So first and foremost, do great work. Believe in yourself. Do great work. Tell the world that this is the great work that I'm doing. Right? Tell the right audience that this is the great work that I'm doing. They should know about it. And if they know about it, they will talk about it.
Absolutely.
Right? But if they are not aware, they cannot champion for you.
Right.
So it's very important that we do this. Another very important point I want to talk here, especially, in a boss-subordinate relationship. And because a lot of people ask me this question at a VP or AVP, that level, that how do I build my presence in the organization, that the organization sees me and I get good growth, and everybody is bothered at that level on promotions and growth in their work area. My strong advice to them is that start doing your performance evaluation from the first month.
Understand.
of the year. Every month, fill that form. Every month, take out half an hour, take a printout of that form, and keep filling it April, May, June, July, till March. So, in the month of March, you're able to very concretely discuss with your senior the impact that you brought about in a project that happened in the month of May last year.
Right.
Memories are short, people don't remember.
Right.
Right? What people remember is the error that you made in the month of January.
Right.
But fantastic work that you did from in the month of November, September, people don't remember that.
Right.
But when you go with this concrete data point and discuss your mistake that you did in the month of January, can
Will
then
seem
be
much
yes,
less of an issue.
yes,
Ah,
absolutely.
Right.
It'll give a perspective to the leader. And it'll give you also a perspective that what you're expecting. Maybe you continued goofing up through the year and you did something fantastic in the month of January and then you are expecting a promotion. That's also incorrect, right? So it will also help you get things in perspective.
Right.
It'll give your boss a perspective. And, the conversation is going to be way more meaningful.
Right.
And also it'll help you like you did it in year 1. You did it in year 2. Then you can also reflect back. Am I doing more? Am I learning more? So for your career growth also,
Yeah, absolutely.
it is so essential.
Absolutely. And so underrated.
So underrated. Yes.
So, 3 personal branding tips from you.
What are the tips? I would give you a framework. Okay.
Okay.
A framework for building your personal brand.
Okay.
Right? Remember the framework called RACE.
RACE.
RACE. R-A-C-E.
RACE.
Right?
Right.
So RACE, R stands for research. Do a research about your own self, your own role, and identify your core competencies, what you're great at, what is your differentiator, what you stand out for, right? So that you need to know. And it has to be also relevant. So your research should include the fact that it should be relevant in today's day and age,
Absolutely.
right?
Absolutely.
So like say, for example, if you're in IT and you're not having any conversation on this whole AI ML space, you may be fantastic at your work, but then it'll not...
it's not future ready. It's not futuristic.
Right. So it has to be futuristic. It has to be relevant today and going ahead.
Yes.
So figure out where you are and what differentiates you. Then act on it. Right? Very consciously act on it. Have results. Have proof points that will establish your differentiator. That yes, this is what.
So act on can also be preparation. You prepare for the future. Yes. You pick up. Yeah,
it'll be
combination of everything.
Right?
Yeah.
Prepare and execute and demonstrate results. Because without that, without the outcomes, all the claims are futile.
Yes.
Right?
Right.
So have research, act on it, then communicate it. Right? Because everybody is busy. They are not noticing your achievements. Sometimes our children come back to us and they tell us that you didn't say great, good to me. I did this, right? So हम अपने बच्चों का achievements ignore कर देते हैं. How will we remember our
peer group,
colleague, teammate, or a CEO who's building brand somewhere, right? Not possible. People are busy. So you need to communicate, articulate it proactively and then engage. If somebody is coming back to you or how are you giving it forward, all that, right? And, because you can't just broadcast and go away. You have to be there to then address subsequent, conversations.
Yeah.
So whether it is individual brand or corporate brand, RACE framework is the framework to follow to build personal brand or corporate reputation, any of it. Simple as that.
Great, Neetu. It's simple, effective. Yeah, and I think it's time-tested.
Time-tested, absolutely.
Yeah.
You can fit it in any organization, any
situation. So, Neetu, what is branding, communication, and reputation for a dummy? Like, if you can just break those terms down for us.
So, see, everything that, like, all of us exist in this world, right? And then how do we distinguish that you're you and me? Largely by our name to start with. Of course,
Right.
each of us have our own core competencies, our differentiators, etc., that define us. But it all, the first brain distinguishes between two people through our name.
Right.
Right. So,
Right.
so it starts with as basic as that, how are you defining or naming your company or your own identity, to then identifying that what are the core competencies that distinguishes one from the other. What is it that you want to talk about and want the world to know about you. So branding helps you differentiate
From
yourself
one another.
from anybody else, right? Or differentiate your company, your offerings from one to the other. On the other hand, I think reputation goes a step further, that while you may be known, and that will get you into consideration set. Like, say, for example, if I want to buy a television, Sony, Apple, Toshiba, View, these are some brands that one would think of, and that will get them into the consideration set. But to move from consideration set to the conversion set and also build loyalty thereafter, you need to have great reputation, right? If that is missing, then
so beautifully put. Yeah,
it's a very
subtle.
nuanced, very subtle, and that comes largely from our action. So, in the branding stage, we talked about the differentiators that we carry or the competence that we carry. The second step is how are we acting upon that competence, and what's the experience we are leaving behind with our stakeholders. That is what builds reputation.
Right.
And of course, communication is important to do both.
Yes.
So it's a tool rather.
Right.
But that's the key difference between branding and reputation.
Beautiful. Beautiful. So, Meetu, actually, in this last 15 years, I think last 15 years, last 10 years, you've run your own company.
Correct.
You've run your own company, and you started your company after a fairly successful corporate career.
Yes.
Right? So you switched to being an entrepreneur, and today you're the CEO of Eminence. And you call yourself a reputation partner.
Yes.
I love the terminology. Okay. I think it just resonates. The minute you hear it, it resonates. It says something. So my question to you is, were there gaps that you found when you were working in the corporate sector? How did you navigate, into entrepreneurship, into this sector, and create a mission around a very niche segment? I'd love to hear that from you.
So the primary gap that I identified, because before setting up Eminence, I worked in about 4-5 different organizations. And one common observation from my own experience and, my friends and colleagues working in other organizations, their experience, variety of departments were working in silos and trying to build the brand or its reputation in a certain way. There was no integrated approach that the organizations were taking. So one big gap that was, and the way we engage with companies, and we help them literally integrate their communication. So the approach we adopt is multi-stakeholder, multi-platform kind of engagement to ensure that their whole brand or reputation is strengthened in such a way that even if a crisis were to come, God forbid, but even if a crisis were to come, there's only dent that comes to the brand and it doesn't get destroyed. And we've seen enough and more cases of this. So a very cohesive approach towards brand building, which results in a lasting reputation. And second important thing is that the difference between making promises and living those promises was also missing. So it's not that they are not living those promises, but they are not conveying it as much. Like one of the organizations that we are currently working with, Vilasini, we are helping them understand, and we're doing this whole exercise with the leadership team. Because when I spoke to their say tech team, they're doing wonderful activities. When I spoke to their channel team, again, they are doing fab stuff. But the channel team has no idea what are the tech differentiators that the brand carries. Or the tech team has no idea what are the channel requirements that the brand carries and how can they solution around it. So getting everybody together in one room, doing a messaging workshop, understanding and telling them that these are key messages that you can deliver, supported by proof points.
Understood.
So when respective teams are together, then
Right.
they can submit their own proof points. No, otherwise it just becomes a very vague concept.
Absolutely.
So it's a very cohesive approach that we adopt,
yeah.
and help them just look inwards. Everything is within the organization. It's just that they are not mining it enough, collating it, and comprehensively communicating around it.
So you enable a degree of unification
Yes,
and bringing everybody into a central point and theme.
correct.
Yeah.
And then defining it,
Crystallizing
correct,
and then
helping them
taking
in
it out and
communicating.
communicating.
Yes.
Okay.
So these are the 3 steps.
Okay. Beautiful. How was childhood, Meetu? Where did you grow up? What did you...
So actually, that also is a fascinating point. Of course, I grew up in a very small town.
Oh, okay.
I'm slightly unsure even if you find it in a map.
Really? Okay.
So it's a small town called
Ramgarh in now in Jharkhand, then in Bihar.
Actually, it's a great army cantonment area. But the school that I went to was within the Kendra Vidyalaya, but
KV,
it was
in the Cant.
in the Cant, yes. But why I kind of smiled when you said your childhood, because I think there's a strong connection to my childhood versus the career path that I have chosen. Which is this small town, primarily we spoke in Hindi, right? So much so that my education, so science and social studies, these 2 subjects, we studied in Hindi. Okay. So I could hardly speak in English till my post-graduation.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
I came to Bombay in my 11th grade. Then I did my graduation undergrad course in Bombay. But it was so tough. I couldn't speak in English.
I can well imagine. And Bombay, and yeah.
Yes. And in that school, because of my communication skills and my and I have 2 elder sisters, both of them passed out of the same school, so I was fairly known, because they had already carved that path for me.
Right.
Plus, I was fairly participative in all the curricular activities. Academically, also it was good. So well-rounded personality. 16 years of age, you come to Mumbai. And suddenly you're laughed at, right?
Yeah.
You're like feeling
you're not
so
part of the groups. You're left out. Yeah.
Possibly, yes, all of that. And if I go back to and talk to some of my friends in my 11th and 12th grade, I don't think anybody will even remember this, or they would even say, no, we never thought you were not part of the group. But self-inflicted pressure that I feel, I genuinely feel none of them behaved the way I thought they are behaving with me. But it was all self-inflicted. Because I knew I am not enough. Then that I started.
It kind of starts building on you, and plus it's the adolescence.
Precisely.
You have to deal with it in the 11th and 12th. Yeah.
Exactly. And the popular self or the all-rounder self suddenly lost her own identity. So it was difficult for me to
That's an
accept.
amazing story.
Yeah.
So how did you overcome it? Like,
I honestly, no conscious effort to overcome it. Lot of credit goes to my parents for keeping the environment at home absolutely fantastic and positive. We never sat down and discussed these things, but the environment at home was so welcoming all the time that
it didn't matter.
it
You
didn't
felt
matter
comforted.
much. Yeah, so
Mm.
there was a world which was very, very accepting of you.
Mm.
So, it was okay if there was another world which I felt wasn't accepting. Again, maybe the world didn't feel that way. So for a very long time, I had this struggle. I started reading quite a lot. Reading helped me develop some vocabulary.
Mm.
It helped me also when I was reading, I was paying a lot of attention to grammar,
Mm.
how sentences are formed and all that, right?
Mm.
Because there was no way to learn. Now there are YouTube channels where you can learn English grammar. Then
Yeah.
it was not
Difficult.
correct. So
Difficult.
a lot of embarrassing situations. For example, I used to call embarrassing embracing, and people would laugh at me. So
Yeah, I get it. I completely get it.
So all those mistakes I made. Yeah, and then I consciously started working on my communication skills because it was something that could be mended. It was not something that defined me anyway.
Right.
So, and then suddenly I started getting appreciation for being a great communicator. And so I don't know when that transformation honestly happened, but it was very gradual, Vilasini, but it did happen, right?
So it totally links up. Yeah. It totally links up to very unconscious.
Very
but,
unconscious, yes.
Yeah. But
a conscious effort.
Conscious effort.
Which then became a part of your subconscious.
Yeah.
And then you became that.
Yeah.
And so there's a very, though I came across this video very later in life, but I would recommend everybody to view this video. It's a fantastic video by Amy Cuddy.
Oh, I've seen
it's the second most viewed TED Talk, it seems.
Yes.
And it talks about how we can build confidence and how we can fake it till we make it, till we believe it.
Yes.
And we become it.
Yes.
It just feels nice when you look back that, there was a point in time when it was such a limitation, which actually became my strength.
And maybe, in a subconscious manner, you want to give back in the communication space,
Yes.
It's so, all the childhood linkages that people now talk about it.
I do very consciously. There are people who reach out to me
from a mentoring
from variety of places, just when they feel that they are not able to, they're full of competence, but they are not able to achieve something because of their communication. And they write to me, they reach out to me. I teach in colleges, so the students reach out to me. And I feel that even if one student I could influence through this, I'm done. So it's a lovely feeling. But
wonderful. So Meetu, today you're a brand in yourself. Okay, so I'm going to flip it a little bit, of course. Needless to say. So if you had to give yourself a tagline, what will it be?
It'll be a reputation partner, no? That's
yeah, you put in so much thought into that, reputation partner. Yes. What colors will you associate your brand to be?
Red.
And why?
That's how my logo is also. Eminence's logo is also red in color.
Right.
Again, a lot of thought has already gone into it. So the red color actually, and very much this red color, is very similar to the color of our blood, right? So how the blood is lifeline to, is the most essential thing for us to live. Similarly, reputation is the most essential.
Powerful. Oh, wow. Yeah.
For organizations to have lasting life.
Right.
And also, it emerges out of the passion to really help companies and individuals build lasting impression, and passion, the color is red. So those are the two things.
Love it. Absolutely love it. So if there is something that, you take as a go-to-market or whatever it, or, what you take to people, whether it's a mindset, a method, what will it be? Or
one thing that I'll help them align their business strategy with the communication strategy. Because whenever you're building a brand or reputation, you will be highly competent to do it. That is why you've gone out and, set out on this journey. So an organization has the competence, it has the capabilities and also the characteristics required to,
Navigate
and deliver whatever promise it set out to do. But for it to scale up, for it to multiply the growth rate, if they are not communicating enough, then what happens that in any equation, there's a push that organizations do that this is my product or this is my service, please take it. But there has to be a pull from the stakeholders, whether employees, whether customers or investors or anybody, that I want to be associated with you. So for that pull, if that happens, imagine the multiplication of growth rate, and which is what we end up doing. So a lot of times people get carried away thinking it's a subjective concept. Reputation is a subjective concept. It indeed is. But
it can be
one must measure what matters. So we make all the journey measurable so that the outcome really matters significantly. That's the thing.
Yeah, so coherently put. So now, I'm going to pick your brains. I'm going to delve into reputation, okay, and organizational reputation.
Yes.
So simply put, I mean, the first thing that came to my mind was, when we evaluate markets and the stock prices of companies, etc. Even when the sector is performing well, even when that company is having a quarter-on-quarter financial performance, etc. But still, the stock price is static, doesn't move. There is a particular vibe that, either the consumers pick up, something that is happening behind the scenes that we don't fully understand. But it eventually comes down to being, somewhere reputation linked, somewhere a bad PR linked, something that, an organization has gone through in the past that people are unwilling to forget. So, I just wanted to kind of understand it from you, from your own experience. Is my linkage right? Do you have a thought process on this that you'd like to articulate?
Fitness. Can it just be an outcome of what you're eating? It can't just be an outcome of that one aspect, or how much you're working out, or how you're keeping your mental well-being, or how your circumstances are, or environment at home or at work is. It's a combination of all of that, right? So reputation and also the outcome around that are influenced by variety of factors. So at Eminence, we've developed something called Eminence Reputation Score. And we arrived at this. So it's a combination of 5 parameters. It's a weighted average of 5 parameters. And the 5 parameters are the brand, popularity or the recall of the brand, because that's essential. You have to be known to have a reputation. If nobody knows you, it doesn't matter. So the brand recall is important. The customer experience is important. Employee work culture. The organization's work culture is important, or employee experience, as we call it. That's the third parameter. The responsible business practices that you are adopting, right? Just because you've given out an earning forecast, you would achieve it hook or crook. That doesn't work, right? So the responsible business practices you're adopting, and finally, your financial performance. Then we ran a research among senior leaders, and which was a combination of CEOs, CXOs, senior academicians, practitioners, and so on. And ask them that, you pick up your top 5. And then that's how these five parameters came about. Then we went back to them and we told them to rate or rank them in terms of order of priority. And you will not believe, Vilasini, financial performance got the least weightage.
Interesting.
Yeah. The maximum weightage, of course, came from customer experience, right?
Right.
That has to be super solid.
Right.
Employee experience ranked number 3. Brand recall was the number 2. Number 3 is
Custom employee engagement.
And finally is the response. Fourth one is the responsible business practices, and then the financial services. So that's that. And so we very consciously calculate this number, give organizations a sense of direction and very actionable insights that why their work culture is ranking low. We tell them that was, you may be very popular organization, but see, people, your own employees don't view you
in the same way as you view yourself.
So they are the biggest brand carriers, and if they are speaking badly of your organization outside, why will an investor trust your company?
Absolutely.
And all those, actionable insights then help organizations relook at their practices.
Absolutely.
So that's how we're going. So your question on why the vibe doesn't work, actually, how
vibe translates into measurements.
Yes,
right.
Yes. Pretty much what the book Blink talked about, right?
Yeah.
The day intuition followed
by data. Here, actually, one thing I wanted to talk to you about is you meet so many founders, you meet people who've started the business like you were saying. How much of their thinking, how much of their thought process influences the brand and reputation? Is it all them? Is it some them?
Significantly them.
Significantly them.
Yeah, significantly. Like, you see Kamath Brothers, Zerodha, Dipinder Goyal, Zomato, Vijay Mallya, Kingfisher, right? So, not just surname, but
I know what you mean.
Your conduct definitely has a strong reflection on the corporate brand. Your personal brand has strong reputation on the corporate brand that you, carry.
Okay.
And very important to be mindful of it.
Can reputation ever be regained?
Yes, it can be built for sure, because to err is human. Right? So all of us make mistake. Companies also make mistake. Companies is what but us, right? Human beings who are working there. So we can make mistake that reflects on the organization, and organization also goes through that cycle. Secondly, fortunately or unfortunately for companies, people's memory is short.
Is it?
Yeah.
I'm happy to know. Yeah, okay.
Because, and especially in today's day and age, because we hardly pay attention to anything properly. Secondly, so much information overload, right? So, you're not sticking to one particular information for a very long time. If I were to remind you of a couple of episodes, like, say for example, Tata Mistry crisis. That happened, but when Tata Mistry happened, it was like,
public washing.
Really
you admire just publicly washing their linen. Yes, it did feel very bad.
Very bad. So the risk that they carried was 3 times more, even though they were Tata and they are super protected.
I understand.
But the way the brand has rebuilt its, reputation now,
Absolutely.
I think a lot of that is forgotten, and which is fantastic. But it's the brand Tata. It carries that might. It carries the goodwill.
Legacy of goodwill that kind of saw them through this. But yes, you make a very valid point that people were willing to forget and give them a second chance.
Yes.
Right.
And it happens even if we take some smaller brands, like say for example, the whole crisis that Microsoft underwent when Satya Nadella spoke at a conference, where he went about and said in a conference for women. He was asked a question that often women find it difficult to ask for raise and grow, strongly in their career. and ask for the right opportunities. So what should women do in such a situation? And his response was that if you're doing great work, you will get noticed and you will grow. It is like doing your karma right and you will get it back positively. Now, he would have answered from whatever lens he was looking at, but that
It
answer
wasn't
was
taken-
not at all
Taken well.
appreciated and taken well. And he, and as well as Microsoft,
Mm.
received a lot of flack for that.
Mm. Mm.
Microsoft was labeled as a woman unfriendly
A place to
company.
work.
Correct,
Mm.
yes.
Mm.
So they really had a big crisis there. They had to issue an apology. Satya Nadella issued a personal apology and so on and so forth.
Mm.
So it was a crisis for both.
Mm.
For Satya Nadella at a personal level
Mm.
as well as Microsoft at a corporate level.
Mm.
And, at that platform, he was being interviewed by one of the independent directors of Microsoft, who immediately jumped in. And she said that this is one of the very few points I disagree with you on. And she went ahead and gave the right answer.
Oh, right.
so,
kind of protected
Protected the
the
brand
company
there.
and the
But
brand. Yeah.
You
But
are-
what
yeah.
happens? Yeah. I get what you're saying. Yes,
Right?
yes.
So it was a very bad episode for the company. However, that made them look back and, relook at their policies. They've done some very big changes.
Mm.
And there have been policy level,
Mm.
changes at the organization. So both in letter and spirit, as they call it.
Mm.
And Satya Nadella has even referred to this episode in his book Hit Refresh.
No, is
That
it?
how that episode
Huh.
made him relook at his own thinking and their own approach towards their women colleague and so on. It's a beautiful episode and very nicely. And today,
Mm.
I think he's one of the most respected leaders
Yes.
in the entire world, not
Mm.
just India.
Mm.
So,
I'll definitely
so
take a look at
that's
it.
that. So, this is how one can rebuild. Consciously acknowledge the problem happened, go back to the drawing board, work on the first principles, and build
And
back.
rebuild back. And people are willing to give you a second chance.
Yes.
And so, me too, the other thing that came to my mind was on integrity. A lot of reputation is also about the integrity you carry and what you communicate, right? So, what are your thoughts on that? Is integrity something you can build? Can be cultivated as a skill set? Is it a skill set? It's a value. It's a value.
Correct.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And it's a value that comes literally from within and deeply rooted in you. So it's certainly the most essential part of the existence of a human being as well as a company. No compromise on that front. However, we do hear of so many episodes where
unfortunately.
integrity was compromised.
Mm.
So that's also a reality, and we can't overlook that.
Mm.
And that in fact forms the base of the existence of this whole concept of reputation.
Right.
So if you feel that there are certain practices that are conducted in your organization which is compromising the integrity of that entity or your own self, consciously work towards bridging that.
Understand.
It's
So
not negotiable.
what constitutes integrity?
First and foremost, in our younger days, our parents used to say that you should be, first and foremost, you should be able to answer yourself that what you've done is
You
right.
can have a good night's sleep.
Correct. You can have a good night's sleep, right? Second filter should be that can you come and confidently tell this to your parents that you've done something like this, or anybody whom you love and love truly dearly. Can you come and open up to that person and say confidently that you've done this and you're proud of it, right? So that would be the second filter. And third filter from the corporate lens, if it becomes the headline of the newspaper tomorrow, will you be happy to see that? These three questions, if one is able to answer, I think
more or less
your
it is
integrity
taken
question
care
is
of.
answered. Yes.
You need, yeah. And how many times, in reality, do the CXOs, CEOs have to do this check in real life?
All the time.
All the time is right. But I'm saying, how many times are they really pushed to this? Are there situations where they're pushed to it? Or, a person carrying integrity just flows through it?
So, like we spoke in one of the earlier conversations, the personal brand of the leader, the personal conduct and the character of the leader has a strong reflection in the corporate character and the corporate brand and the whole entity. So, if the leader or the CXO or the CEO, they don't carry this whole lens of integrity from their own in their own conduct, then it'll have a reflection in the organization also.
So every day when we wake up and do our,
Yes,
that needs to be a filter within.
it has to be that filter within, right? Every day when you're getting ready and looking at yourself in the mirror, straight into your eye, can you look at and say that it was a clean day?
And if it's going to give you a good night's sleep, then why compromise it with
on it.
anything else? Neetu, with that, I'll move from reputation to branding. Okay. From your own experience, what are some of the underrated aspects of branding and brand communication?
Oftentimes, while building brand, we don't align the business outcome with the brand building activities. So that's one of the most underrated, points while building brand. Aligning your brand building initiatives with the business outcomes. Unless that's not done, you might get overnight popularity. It'll not be sustainable if it's not built on business priorities, because tomorrow it's a integral part of any business building. There are times when you need to cut costs. First thing that gets cut is this budget. One of the first things. This budget. Then what do you do? So by investing heavily in high decibel campaigns will help you build a great brand. I think that's the most misplaced
misunderstood,
belief
misplaced
that
belief.
a lot of organizations work on. That's not going to help unless it's backed by
Business
proper
principles.
business principles. It's not going to sustain.
So brand builds on its own if you keep doing the right business. I mean, am I hearing it the right way? And accentuated, of course, with
You have to accentuate
it with
yes.
communication and
Correct,
and thing.
Otherwise, so many
One can't-
organizations exist.
Yeah,
But for them to be well
exactly.
known,
So
and
many brands exist which does good work. For them to be well known, it needs that accentuation.
accentuation.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. And just the decibel value is not going to save you if your business principles are
faulty.
faulty. So both ways. Okay, understand. Is there any particular brand that you have seen in the last 20 years that you think has done admirably well, bringing both of these worlds together?
There are many brands that have done well. One brand that I don't work with, but I quite admire the way it has built its popularity. It's, again, the recall is Zomato. Right? It has created a category that never existed, and it imagining that kitchen will become less relevant itself is a big shift that our society has taken. And there, the way the brand continuously keeps talking about 2-3 very significant messages. Number one, the shift, like I talked about, in the consumer behavior itself. A category that didn't exist, they created this category and made it mainstream.
And they keep pivoting.
Second, the employment opportunity. The way they have not just gone about giving employment to so many people, but the way, but also have really made it meaningful. And even while doing those, employment, what they have also done is introduce training programs for these people, the gig workers. They have gone ahead and given them insurance. So, very
Subtle, but
Human-
human touch.
Correct.
Yeah,
Correct.
yeah.
So that was amazing. So A, category creation, B, employment creation, and C, the way the promoter is very cohesively bringing all of this together and consistently communicating around it. Again, I feel that that's one of the best examples of how brand reputation is built here. People may agree or disagree in the business performance of the company and so on. We are not getting there. Just the way this whole reputation piece has come about is admirable.
Yeah. I tend to agree. I think, from a reputation, branding, strategy, communication, it's all very strong and some of the core principles. Amazing. So, Meetu, we live also in a very, geopolitically active, agnostically active environment today. I think more than it existed earlier.
Correct.
So here, how do you find brands, taking stances or, the brand dynamics playing out? So do brands, are they agnostic to all of it that's happening around them, or do they have to take a choice? Do they have to play along? How does it work? What's the inside story?
So, see, when it comes to brand positioning or, reputation, brand building, all of those concepts, taking a political stance makes no sense. And I don't think any organization is taking that very publicly, and rightly so. Absolutely no need. However, there's a concept of cause-based marketing. Right? Organizations pick up a cause and then they, market and, create a certain demand in that pocket,
Understand.
which is very, very popular. And it's in fact considered to be one of the best practices of doing cause-based marketing. If you recall, brands like Tanishq, they do it very consciously.
Yeah.
And they have seen positive outcomes around this. So, and a lot of times it also creates debate. Right? Some people don't believe in your cause, and hence they do create a debate. So what? It's a healthy debate. It's a healthy criticism. And brands are taking that in their stride. If they are not, then they should take them in their stride and move ahead. But cause-based marketing is one such space which is still quite nascent.
But it's now in, I think, a lot.
It's coming in now. Yes, people are picking up that thread and they're doing, but it's not still practiced across industries.
The board.
A lot of consumer-facing brands are doing it, but B2B or B2B2C, they are still struggling with it. Yes.
Yeah, I understand. Now I'm going to move to the other hats that you wear. You coach a lot of C-suite leaders as well. When did you transition into coaching, or when did coaching come by in your life? When that happened?
So, I joined coaching, like you have to get certified to become a coach. Honestly, I joined that program to better myself, to understand, how to, when I engage, if I am founding a company and I will be hiring team members, etc., I have to be a certain person. So, so to learn all that process, I just joined this program. It was a wonderful program. It opened up so much of my own thinking. So that was that. So the whole idea of undergoing a coaching course was this also, that I should be able to engage in meaningful conversations with CEOs and CXOs, for which I needed to learn a little more. So it was by that, objective. It was driven by that objective. And then
you naturally, I think as a person, I'm getting that vibe. That you lend yourself as a listener and enabler.
Possibly. So then opportunities came, people reached out. It felt beautiful to see people transition. So that's that. So I'm very selective about this journey because I run a very active company. Plus my roles as independent directors on boards. I get very little time to do this, and it's a very intense exercise.
Intense exercise. Yeah. I can
So
well
plus,
imagine.
of course, I have two little lovely human beings to take care of.
Oh,
So
how old are they?
they're 17 and 12.
Oh,
So,
lovely.
so yeah, so I
Mm.
that's one role which is super unique,
Mm.
Vilasini,
Mm.
and I feel I'm replaceable everywhere except in that one role of being mother to these two people.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's the role I enjoy the most.
Yeah.
And I feel I could have done way better there.
I hear
But-
you.
But
Yeah,
it's
the
a judgment.
motherhood guilt.
Yes,
Yeah,
yeah.
and the motherhood priority and the
Yes.
privilege, of course.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah, all thrown to one. So, Meetu, the other thing that stands out for me, in the other hats that you wear is the work you've done around women mentorship. 150 women that you mentored just under the CIA
Yeah.
initiative. I want you to talk to us about that. And of course, what you have understood through mentoring women, how do they navigate all of those?
So that was one project that I did with CII. But in addition to that, continuously also I keep engaging with women. That's like my
Core.
That two things. One, that I want women to stay in the workforce. It's important that they stay in the workforce. Not because, we as employers need more women to be here or for any selfish reasons, but more importantly, it's for their good, that they are living a balanced life. So very important for them to have a good balance of professional as well as personal identity, and it's possible, right? It's very possible. I have lived it, you have lived it, there's so many other women who have lived it, so it's not something that is impossible.
Absolutely.
Right? However, I'm not making any judgment that those who are choosing not to continue
absolutely.
or
No
enter
judgment.
the workforce or move out, it's their choice.
Yes.
So that is their choice. My preference is, that
They continue to work.
they continue, right? Because it completes them in a certain manner.
Gives them financial independence,
Very
courage.
important.
Yeah.
Very important.
Yeah.
Financial independence and courage, the two keywords that you spoke, extremely important
Yeah.
for women to have a more holistic life.
Absolutely.
And really consciously working towards that. The environment that I create, at least in my own organization, is very human friendly.
Okay.
Not just woman friendly, but human friendly. And because even men need those, support.
Reinforcements. Yeah.
Men need equal amount of support.
Absolutely.
It's just that they are not speaking up. It's stereotype is so much prevalent in our organization, in our
Work
societies.
cultures, societies.
Yeah, that people don't even realize that they need this support.
Yeah. And the system is tuned in such a way that, you call it the leaky pipeline.
Yes.
But, somehow the men struggling or not, they just continue to show up.
Correct.
And the women somehow choose to drop off.
Drop out. Yes.
I don't know why that dynamic
in my
happens.
head, that's for two reasons. One is the stereotypical requirements. So, if there's somebody ailing in the family, or there's a small child, or, there is any requirement on the family front, it's the women.
The caregiving responsibility.
Responsibility. So one big solution for that is that in our society itself, in India, we need to spend heavily into care economy. Right? If there are enough daycare centers, or if there are enough elderly care centers, a lot of these problems will be taken care of.
Right.
But that's at a societal level we need to work on. The second big challenge is the self-inflicted pressure that we put.
Yeah.
We want to be the superwoman. We have to simply drop the superwoman syndrome. Simple as this. Right? We don't have to be the best worker, the best mother, the best wife, the best daughter. Just be You.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Hmm.
And be a good human being, right? If you're just addressing this piece, there is no need to over challenge
And
yourself.
everything kind of settles down, irons out after a point,
Eventually.
right?
Yes.
Yeah. Like
Yes. Yeah.
what we're going through right now might seem insurmountable,
Correct.
but actually it just passes.
Yeah, when you reflect
Yeah,
back
when-
10 years later or 5 years later, you don't even remember half of this.
Half of that.
Right?
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
it's just like you rightly mentioned, Vilasini, it's about showing up. It's about showing up on a day-to-day basis.
And everything works out.
Everything works out. So the way my biggest advice to all the women is that on a daily basis, prioritize. Every day, every time, prioritize. Work-life balance or, personal professional balance. Today, what I want to prioritize.
Yes.
Answer that question. Go ahead, do it. Forget
Everything works out.
Literally on a daily basis.
Absolutely.
It cannot be one day, one big step,
No.
which is when you
Yeah.
choose to move out.
Yeah.
Just keep showing up on a daily basis. Little here, little there. You will make a whole.
Yeah. I think the universe is designed like that. The
Yes.
whole is going to happen.
Correct.
We just don't let it go.
Yeah. No, we don't have spring, autumn, summer, winter all together. No.
Yeah. Ek ke baad hi. Yes,
Exactly.
absolutely.
It happens sequentially. So
Yeah.
we have to just be patient.
True. This is something I've asked everybody on the podcast. 2 questions around women. So one is, being a woman, have you faced challenges in your corporate career, in your entrepreneur career? And what has it been and how have you navigated it? That's one.
I have faced challenges. Whether they were because of my gender or not, I don't know. But I faced challenges like any other human being. And one overcame it.
So no gender.
I don't think any opportunity was not given to me because I was a woman.
Yeah.
Or, I was passed one promotion because I was a woman. None of that. In fact, when I came back from my maternity leave, I was promoted.
Oh, that's so
Because
beautiful.
That's
beautiful.
So it was so lovely because I was very conscious of my contribution. So whatever one would do in 12 months, I finished them in 9 months. So
if we are conscious about it and we keep delivering, there's going to be no bias. There's not going to be any stereotyping
yes,
in the real world.
Correct.
Yeah,
That's what I feel.
that's
Of
very
course,
nice.
everybody's experience could be different, but my experience was that I didn't feel limited.
That's beautiful. We need more such experiences also coming to life
Yes.
because we need that dynamic.
Correct.
The other thing, I think just stands out in your career is how we navigate through ambition and contentment. There is a level of ambition in you that's made you strive and go ahead, and you are a very happy person seeking the happiness also in parallel.
Yes.
So how do the two worlds coexist?
Like I said, it has to coexist. It may not exist together all the time. There are times when I'm super happy about my ambition also. There are times when I have to keep my ambitions low and focus more on my happiness, or the other way around. But, one big differentiator I feel that really helped me initially, like I was talking earlier to you, eventually I used to get perturbed when I was much younger. But eventually I understood that things happen.
Yeah.
And I don't have to
Overthink
stimulate
it,
yeah, all the time.
Yeah.
Right? There are times when I need to go extra mile. And I definitely do go extra mile. But then there are times when I need to go slow as well. Enjoy both the spaces.
And does that come naturally?
It has started coming naturally.
So we
now.
have to work on it a
We have
little
to,
and
yes,
Yeah.
I used to be, those who know me in my 20s will know that I was highly impatient and anxious human being. Consciously worked towards enjoying life. And I thoroughly enjoy it now.
But you were also growth oriented. You had a goal, so you
100%.
drove yourself.
Yes.
Yeah,
If that wouldn't have happened, I wouldn't have been happier.
You wouldn't have been happy.
Yeah, I would have been missing something in my world. But I didn't make it my center of existence.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
So that helped. That having growth, having ambition, having purpose, all that existed. And step by step, with God's grace and real hard work, one could achieve it. It's a journey, it's still not there. So much to achieve.
Why would you say still not there, Meetu? I see you right up there.
Thank you.
So, a quick rapid fire, Meetu. What does your online diet look like?
So I consume quite a lot of content on online, but my most favorite is watching baby videos.
And why so?
Because I feel the sound of babies' laughter is the most, positive
therapeutic
sound.
And
very,
cute
very
and
therapeutic.
wow.
Absolutely.
I love that. Remember that one from you.
So we ended the day, me and my son, we both watch it together. He's 12.
Oh.
So we both watch it together. So it's a good 10 minutes of us time. And a good way to wind down the day.
Absolutely.
So,
Absolutely.
That's my most favorite. But of course, we watch many other content, but that's the...
Incredibly cute. Incredibly cute to recount. Your favorite food?
I'm an absolutely functional eater. So I don't have any favorite food. I just eat because...
To sustain.
To live. Yeah.
That's it.
So, yes. So I have no favorite food. My comfort food is chai and Parle G biscuit.
Oh, I love it too, that combination.
Yeah.
Okay. The next one is, your favorite book from your library.
Most favorite, that the one I read every year is Siddhartha. It's a book by Herman Hesse. It's a lovely expression of human emotion and human's evolution. Okay. So a person's emotional evolution. It has deeply impacted me. So that's one book.
Okay.
That's my most favorite.
Okay. I'll try to read that too.
Yes.
Your favorite holiday destination?
My favorite destination is where 4 of us are together. Doesn't matter. The place doesn't matter. It's even if it is at home, but 4 of us have to be together.
Especially when you live busy lives. Yeah, that coming together becomes very, very precious.
Very important. We love holidaying. We go on holidays multiple times in a year. But 4 of us together.
I absolutely get that. Favorite movie?
Notting Hill.
I saw that on your Twitter page and I said, I like her already.
Yes, Notting Hill is my again, that's one movie possibly I would have watched umpteen times. But I'll be unfair to Shah Rukh Khan if I don't call out DDLJ. That's again a movie that I don't even remember how many times I've watched it.
Yeah. I think that's an era movie that we would have all watched
multiple times.
Possibly. Yeah. Wonderful. Your life philosophy, Meetu?
Surrender. And surrender, not in a weak way, to just like give in or give up. It's a very strong concept. It's about not letting your ego come in the way of your capabilities. Right? So it's like trust the process, plus do your best, and then let the universe
take over.
Yeah, do the magic and do its best rather.
Gorgeous.
So it's that way, yes.
That's lovely. And so it comes to the fag end. Okay, 2 things that I again ask most people is, in this world that we live in with so much anxiety and so much happening in parallel process, how do you stay fit? Mentally and physically, how do you stay fit?
So, fitness, like you said, two aspects, and both have to be very careful about, right? Our physical fitness and mental fitness. This whole concept of garbage in and garbage out stays with me very strongly. So, if for mental fitness, if I'll consume garbage, my mental state also will be like garbage. So, what we consume, we have to be very careful of,
Wow.
mentally
Absolutely.
as well. Right. So the content, online content you spoke about, while on the lighter note, of course, baby videos and, funny videos, all of them, they make sense. But other than that, also, we have to be very conscious of what is the kind of content we are letting our way. Fortunately, because of algorithmic way of, like they say, right? Earlier, we used to do appointment reading. We used to read what we wanted to read.
Yeah.
Now we do algorithmic reading.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So we are shown what we read often.
Yeah.
It has its own advantage because then it doesn't show you what you don't want to see. And that's quite helpful. So mental fitness, I get a lot from there, and some of my spiritual practices. I'm not like big into it. I would love to get more into it, but right now, wherever I am, I'm very happy I could do that journey. And for physical fitness, mindful of what we are eating. So while I don't have any favorite food, I don't even like, I eat everything vegetarian, which is healthy. So it's it doesn't really matter, but very conscious of doing my regular exercise
And all of
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
And
absolutely.
but while doing all of this, not fuss about anything. Like if I missed my exercise one day, I'm okay about it. Don't want to
take
miss
it. Don't take anything to such an extent that it becomes an obsession. Yeah.
Correct. Yes. Yes. Absolutely.
Yeah. Great. Any message that you want to give our viewers from all your years of experience being a woman, very successful woman in this field?
Thank you. No, the only message that I would give, while it might sound professional suggestion, but focus on your reputation, whether on a personal or in a professional space. And that comes, it's a combination of three factors. It's a combination of your capabilities and competence, or other competence and capabilities, followed by how you're communicating about it and how you're consistently
reiterating and delivering
and engaging on it. So this will really take you from in all fields. I gave you an example right at the beginning of reputation helping you move into the conversion set and then the loyalty, with an example of TV purchase. It is true even for your career growth, right? That if your reputation is right, you will get the career growth and you will
move ahead.
Keep moving forward. If your reputation is right, you will get that recognition within your family and move ahead. So having that lens really helps. And everybody, we are talking so much about work-life balance. I have one very important message to give away.
Please.
That in this whole world, there is nothing called work-life balance. The balance has to be within. Once you're balanced in yourself, everything else will work out for you. So focus, again, like we had one of the conversations, that focus on yourself.
Yeah.
Be genuine, be that person who is needed. And then,
everything
will fall in its place.
Beautiful, very valuable.
Thank you
so much. Thank you, Meetu, for this wonderful
Pleasure.
conversation.
Thank you for
taking
opportunity,
it.
Vilasini.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you so much for listening to yet another wonderful episode from VWP. It gives us enormous pleasure to create this content for you. If you enjoyed listening to the conversation, please hit the subscribe button and do let us know your favorite moments from the conversation. We would also love to hear if you have any guest recommendations for us. Of course, please don't miss our shorts section where we have our favorite moments compiled in bite-sized formats for you. So keep listening, keep growing, and do subscribe to the We Women Project. This is your host signing off. Thank you.